In the last video, you explored the basics of how subscriptions get set up, but we did not explore a real-world example. In this video, we are going to move on to a more real-world example of subscriptions, and we're actually going to create two subscriptions that integrate with our blogging application. We're going to create one for subscribing to new comments on a particular post. So you'll be able to get all of the comments as they're added in real time, and you're going to create a second subscription allowing you to get new posts. So whenever someone publishes a new post, you'll be notified and you'll actually be able to do something with that data, like render it to the list of posts you're showing on the client. So to kick all of this off, let's go ahead and move into schema.graphql. This is where we are going to set up one of those two subscriptions for the moment. We're going to start with the subscription that allows you to subscribe to new comments for a post. Right here, we are going to call that one comment. Now, count returned an individual number. Comment is going to return an individual comment, the comment that was just created. So we are going to use the comment object type as the value that comes back. Now, as I mentioned, with comment, we are indeed going to take in an argument, and the syntax for that is going to be identical to the argument syntax for queries and for mutations. We are going to take in a single argument called post ID, whose value is going to be a required ID. So in this case, we are allowing you to subscribe to new comments for a particular post. You do have to provide the ID of the post you're trying to subscribe to. Now that we have this in place, our schema definition is actually all done for this first subscription, and we can move into subscription.js and start working on the resolver method. So once again, we have count for our count subscription. If we have a new comment subscription, we're going to create a new comment object. And comment is indeed just an object, and on there we add our subscribe method. So right here, we have subscribe. And we have all of these same arguments we've come to expect. We are going to have parent, we're going to have args, we are going to have context, and we're going to have info. In here, it's our job to, one, determine if that post actually exists and if it's published, and then two, return an async iterator with a good channel name. So let's talk about exactly how we can get both of those done. First up, verifying that the post ID is of a real published post. That's pretty easy. So right here, all I'm going to do is destructure args to get the data we have. We just have one thing, post ID. And then we're going to set up a little system just like we did before. I'm going to use find to try to find the post, and then I'll throw an error if no post is found. So const right here, post equals. I'm going to look over db.posts. Since I'm going to use db, I will destructure context. Right here, grabbing db. Perfect. Once again, that is db.posts.find. We are looking for posts that match the following criteria. First up, the post ID needs to equal the post ID that was actually passed in. So here we are grabbing the ID property off of the saved post, and we're comparing it to the post ID, the argument provided to the comment subscription. We also want to make sure it's published, so we'll use the logical AND operator, looking at post.published to make sure it's true. So right here, post.published. Now, if we did not find anything, we'll throw an error. So if there is no post, what are we going to do? I'm going to throw a new error, and we'll just provide an error message, something along the lines of post not found. Now, if there actually was a post, that means you are good to go and you can actually subscribe to that data. Right here, we're going to set that up using the following. We are just going to use pubsub.async_iterator once again. I am going to destructure pubsub off of the context object, just like I did for db. Then down below, we can return a call to pubsub.async_iterator. This allows us to once again provide a channel name, and in this case, the channel name needs to contain that post ID. I want a channel specific to the comments for this post. So something like comment:1, where 1 is the post ID, or maybe you want to put it all in uppercase, like it's a constant, comment space followed by the post ID. There actually is no standard for what these channel names look like. The only important thing is that you A, pick a pattern, and B, stick with it throughout your entire application. So I'm going to use a template string so I can easily inject that post ID, and I'm just going to use the actual subscription name in all lowercase, followed by the space, followed by the post ID. So right here, I will inject that post ID. So if the post ID was 44, the channel name would be the following, comment space 44, just like this. Now, this actually wraps up what we need to do in subscription.js. This file is all done. We first verify that the post exists, then we go ahead and actually return the async iterator, which allows the subscription to actually happen. All we need to do is use pubsub.publish in the correct moment. Now, when do comments get created? Well, comments get created over inside of our mutation.js file. We have the create comment method. This is exactly where comments get created, so this is the best place to call pubsub.publish. Since we are going to be calling the publish method on the pubsub object, I am going to also destructure that from the context object. Now, down below, let's say right after we push the comment onto the comments array, we're going to call pubsub.publish with the correct information. Remember, we have to provide those two arguments. The first is the channel name, and the second is the actual data we're trying to publish. Let's start with that first argument, and once again, the channel name is comment space followed by the post ID. Now we do have access to the post ID. We've actually used it above. args.data.post is where we can access that value. So right here, we are just going to add that in. That would be args.data.post. Now, the second argument is our object, and on there, we have to provide a value for the comment property. Remember, this matches up with the subscription name. Its value needs to be whatever we expected to come back. Right here, an instance of comment. And we actually already have that on the comment variable up above. So we have a comment property with the value coming from a comment variable. We can just use the shorthand syntax for that. And there we go. We now have our comment subscription all set up, and we can actually test this out over inside of GraphQL. Now, I am going to head over to db.js real quick and point out that we only have two published posts. We can work with the post with an ID of 10 or the post with an ID of 12. Those are our two options. So let's go ahead and head over to GraphQL Playground and actually test things out. Now, we could create a new tab, but since the count subscription is going to get deleted shortly, we can actually just repurpose this one for our needs. Right here, I am going to remove count and replace it with comment, and then we're going to set up the one argument we know we need to pass in, post ID. We can use either the value 10 or 12, or you could create a new post and use its randomly generated ID. I'll just stick with 10 for the moment. And we know that comment sends a comment object back, so we do have to provide a selection set, determining what we want from each comment. I'm going to say that I would like the comment ID. I would also like the comment text, and I'd also like a little bit of information about the author who made the comment. So right here, I can grab the author, asking for its ID, and we'll say I'd also like the author name. And there we go. We now have our subscription all set up. We can fire this off to allow it to start listening. Then we can create some new comments and make sure that things react correctly. I'm going to go ahead and fire this one off, and we can see that it is indeed now listening. And then we can move over to the tab where we can create comments, and we can start creating some comments. Now right here, the data I already have in place does indeed work with post 10, which is great. So we don't have to make any changes to the create comment mutation. We can go ahead and fire this one off. We can see the new comment was created, and we should have a notification about that over in our comment subscription tab. I'm going to click over to that one. And right here, we can see that we've indeed gotten just one notification about a new comment, my new comment with the ID that we just saw generated. And we also have our information about the author. We have the author's ID and the author's name. Now, in this case, we are indeed seeing the data because the comment was made on post 10. Let's go ahead and change the create comment mutation to work with a different post, post 12. So right here, I'm going to change the post ID over to 12. I'm going to fire that mutation off. The comment was created, and this time around, we should not have a notification about it. If I click over to the subscription tab, we should see nothing, and we are seeing nothing because we did indeed create that comment on a post other than the one we subscribed to. Now, one last test, if I try to subscribe to post 11, things should fail because post 11 is not published. If I go ahead and try to create the subscription, we can see that it crashes with the post not found error. So there we go. Everything is working really well so far, allowing our clients to subscribe to new comments for a particular post. Later on in this section, we'll also learn how we can subscribe to comment updates and comments being removed as well. But for the moment, this is a great starting point. That's where we're going to stop for this one. In the next video, which is a challenge video, it's going to be up to you to use what you've learned about subscriptions to create another subscription. I'm excited to get to that, so let's go ahead and jump right in to the next one.